go. So this is it, Meru 2016, October. Stanley the guide, driver, all-round expert. No sooner had we left the airport than we came across an eastern chanting goshawk in the middle of the road. On the drive along the banks of the Lulika River we see lots of reticulated giraffe, which are the only ones found in this area. Cape buffalo. Meru is renowned for its large herds of buffalo. Common waterbuck, which are the ones with a white circle on the rear end, as opposed to the Defasa waterbuck, which are much shaggier. And Grant's gazelle.
This little stream, because you can see the volume of water running there, and we have this all year round. So at this time of the year, this is the best time of the year.
Meru is lucky to have lots of permanent small rivers, which is exactly what the buffalo and the elephants need. The elephants are doing well now, and there's a fair number of babies being born. Meru is well protected, so there's a low incidence of poaching, and they're now getting quite chilled out in front of tourists. You can see it's pretty overcast. We're right at the end of the hot, dry season and expecting rain any time. In fact, it was not to be, and after a couple of days, we went back to clear blue skies. The Grant's gazelles in the park appear to belong to two species. There's the Grant's gazelle without the stripe, and the ones here with the stripe, which are known as Bright's gazelles. We've picked a spot right out in the open to stop for sundowns, and we're next to a big herd of buffalo that are settling down for the night. On the other side of the hill, coming towards us, was a herd of about 80 or so elephants. So here we are, trying to look casual, sandwiched between a few hundred buffalo on one side and nearly 100 elephants on the other. We consider ourselves to be privileged to be able to park up here and do this. We just hope that there'll be some of it left for our grandkids to enjoy. Next morning, we're out bright and early. This is a martial eagle. The martial eagle is the second biggest African eagle after the crowned eagle.
I love them.
Despite its name, the grey-headed kingfisher actually eats insects and small lizards.
Great. Yes, yes, yes. Going up and down. Yes.
The lappet-faced vulture is the biggest in Africa. It often takes precedence over other species at a kill. The Kori bustard is Africa's heaviest flying bird.
Heavier than your dog, Chris.
Despite it being a man-made dam, the hippos are quite happy. Hippos are present in all of the major rivers in Meru. In fact, we're quite surprised sometimes about how little water they needed to seem quite comfortable. Here's a yellow-billed stork having a doze. Lesser kudus are very shy. Only the males have the lovely spiral horns. This one's about to disappear into the bush. This African rock python had swallowed an antelope of some sort and was sleeping it off under a bush next to a little stream. He was there for at least 3 days that we knew of. This is a male gerenuk. The name is derived from Somali word meaning giraffe-necked. Gerenux are adapted for very dry areas and never need to drink water. Kirk's dik-diks are usually seen in pairs, or sometimes with three if they have a young one with them. A black-shouldered kite. Yellow-necked spurfowl are very common in this area. At the time of our visit, there are only 6 cheetah known to be in the park, so we were quite lucky to see these 2. The cheetah is another mammal in danger of extinction, with only about 7,100 left in the world. There's none left in India, and there's maybe 60 or 70 in Iran. The rest are in Africa. The biggest stronghold is Namibia. Cheetahs are still being killed, and the cubs are taken for sale as pets to rich Arabs in the Middle East. As well as being renowned for running their prey down with speed, cheetahs do actually stalk prey as well, especially in areas with more cover like this. I should point out it's not actually blowing a gale all the time, it's just wind noise across the front of the microphone. In fact, it's very hot this time of year, up to about 33, 34 degrees, and what breeze there is very welcome. This is one of the many rivers that we cross several times a day. You kind of get used to it in Meru, and it makes for a nice change of environment. There's a huge contrast between the rich green riverine forest and then the parched brown bush just a few yards either side of it. Troops of olive baboons are pretty common as well. This is a brown snake eel. Alright to me. Grevy's zebras have been reintroduced into the park in small numbers. There was a foal born in 2016, but unfortunately a leopard got it after just a few weeks. October to December is when the baobabs flower. The white flowers emerge in the afternoon, stay open overnight when they're pollinated by bats and bush babies, and then they turn brown and fall off within about 24 hours. You can see it quite clearly in this photograph, and the green fruit beginning to form beneath the white flower. This is a fully mature fruit, cut open several months later. The white tastes like sherbet, and it contains 6 times more vitamin C than an orange. As we drove out onto the plains, we surprised a large herd of buffalo that had been grazing, so they all hightailed it for the swamp, and then we found a place to stop for breakfast. One of the reasons why Meru is such a good place for the buffalo is the availability of water all year round in the streams that run through the park. They need large quantities of water to digest the poor quality of grass that they eat. A single buffalo can produce up to 2 gallons of saliva in a day. With most of the buffalo safely out of the way, it was time for a bush breakfast on the bonnet. This was our second trip to Meru, and we decided we just had to visit Elsa the lion's grave this time. The grave's located at the western edge of the park, and it's on the banks of the Ura River, next to the remains of George and Joy Adamson's old camp. Elsa was only 5 years old in 1961 when she died of babesiosis, which is a tick-borne disease similar to malaria. As this is the end of the dry season, there was virtually no flow in the river. Even the guide was quite surprised. Plain zebras are doing very well in the park, and they can survive the long dry season and tough it out on poor quality grasses. They can browse on shrubs as well if there's not much else available. Here we've got a common eland in the foreground and a couple of Meru hartebeest standing behind him to the right. The Meru hartebeest was originally a hybrid between the Jackson's hartebeest, which is found further to the north, and the Coke's hartebeest, which is found further to the west in the Rift Valley areas. In the rhino sanctuary in the northwest of the park, there are loads of white rhinos. They're easy to spot because they graze out in the open, whereas despite a second visit and hours spent driving through the thick bush in the park, we failed to find a single black rhino yet again. All rhinos are still critically endangered. Out of a population of around 25, maybe 28,000, over 1,000 were killed in 2016. In 2017, the numbers heading the same way. The major culprit seems to be Vietnam, where rhino horn is now valued as a status symbol as much as anything else. This is a woolly-necked stork. We saw plenty of old favourites along the rivers, like pied kingfishers and fish eagles. The battler eagle isn't averse to dining on a bit of carrion. This eagle's flight is very distinctive, the way the wings dip down first on one side and then a few seconds later on the other as it soars around and around. It was quite a common sight to see a terrapin sunbathing on a hippo's back. It wasn't made clear just why, but this bull has had the end of his tusks sawn off at some point. Was he considering throwing his 6 tons of weight around and showing us who's boss? Highly unlikely, unless we were stupid enough to drive into his space and make him feel threatened. The results of the Great Elephant Census were published in August 2016 and showed there had been a loss of 144,000 elephants in 7 years to 2014. 352,000 savanna elephants were counted. Forest elephants weren't counted, but they are suffering really badly. Mozambique and Tanzania were the two worst hit countries, with over half their elephants lost in just 5 years. In contrast, Kenya, Uganda and Malawi have showed slight population increases. Kenya's population is around 26,000. There's worrying signs now that poachers are targeting the southern African countries of Botswana, Zimbabwe and South Africa, which have been relatively stable up till now. The forest elephants of Cameroon, Gabon and the Congo continue to be decimated at a horrendous rate. 2017 estimates are that we're still losing around 20,000 elephants a year to poaching. Let's just hope that some of the conservation efforts are starting to pay off. Latest information suggests that in Tanzania at least, poaching has declined quite dramatically in the last couple of years. But bear in mind, there's far fewer elephants in the country now than there were 7 years ago. This was an absolutely amazing spectacle. A flock of hundreds of thousands of little birds called red-billed quailias. They descend into a small patch of ground to feed on the seeds, and then, as if at some sort of pre-arranged signal, they all take off again, fly forward a few yards, and then pile into the next patch of ground. Red-billed quailias are said to be the world's commonest bird. I could well believe it, judging by the numbers in this one flock. It was an unforgettable spectacle.